Hi guys, I'm Kevin Evangelista
and Sophie Mapua of BrenPro TV, and welcome to Cyberzone's PC Masters 2021, presented by ASUS.
This is a new series that we've developed to help guide you guys through the process of building your own PC, from picking which parts to get, explaining what each part does, building the rig, and even testing it afterwards.
For our second episode, we're building a rig for the budding quarantine gamers out there. We call this the Game Starter build, and like the name suggests, it's a good rig that'll get you started on most games at good settings and at good frame rates.
Alright.
Yep. And back to help us build this PC, we've got here again Mr. Alvin Pacheco from Pinoy Rig Enthusiast.
Guys.
We did such a good job with the first episode,
Yes,
the
we
work
did.
from home build, that we've decided that you should do
All the builds, upcoming builds for this series. Yeah. And let Sophie do some of it, like little things, like installing the CPU.
I don't know about that.
You're gonna be installing, or no, you're gonna be putting thermal based.
Oh, that would be interesting. How much thermal paste will she put in our CPU?
So anyway, before we start building the PC, we also have to answer the question, why would you want to build your own game starter build? We know that the majority of the population is stuck indoors because of the current pandemic, and due to us wanting to stay entertained with media and games, and also needing to work from home, building your own PC is a fantastic way to fulfill those two activities and maximize your performance per peso.
Building your own PCs offers lots of advantages over buying pre-built desktops or laptops. But the major one is customization. You're buying every part separately to build yourself, so you can fine-tune your PC to be hugely useful for you. Need your PC for photo and video editing? Slap a strong CPU and lots of RAM to blaze through Photoshop and Premiere Pro. Want to game at full graphic settings? Get a beefy GPU. And if you want to do all of those on extended periods of time, water cool it.
There are literally thousands of options and choices in building your own PC. And with this guide, we're going to inform you about every step that you need to do to make the best choices. So our target for this build is to get good performance across a lot of popular games right now without breaking the bank. That means we upgraded a bit from the previous work from home build. For our processor, we have the AMD Ryzen 5 5600X. As of shooting this video, it's the latest mid-level processor from AMD. It's got 6 cores with 12 threads and a base clock of 3.7 GHz. It's actually a pretty popular choice right now among gamers, since it handles gaming pretty well, with enough performance left over to do some streaming on the side. Since we'll be pushing this a bit with modern gaming titles, it's good that we have the Tough Gaming LC240 RGB all-in-one liquid cooler for it. This is not really a necessity, but it's good to have if you ever want to upgrade the processor to a Ryzen 7 or a Ryzen 9 down the line. You know, if you like gaming with this build so much. For memory, we're going with a 16GB T-Force Delta R Tough that's split into two 8GB sticks. 16GB RAM is pretty standard for a lot of games right now, and this ensures that we won't have any memory issues with our gaming later. For our OS drive, we have the T-Force Tough Delta RGB 256GB SSD. Then we're carrying over our hard drive from our work from home build, which is a 1TB Seagate Barracuda. These will be installed in the Tough Gaming B450M Plus 2. Like the brand name suggests, Tough products are known for their durability, stability, and reliability. This board strikes a good balance between features and budget, with 32 gigabits per second, PCIe 3.0x4 M.2 storage support, added structural support for the PCIe slot for heavy graphics cards, and even support for ASUS Aura RGB. It also has an AI noise-cancelling microphone that provides crystal clear in-game voice communication. For graphics, we went with the ASUS Phoenix GTX 1050 Ti 4K. This is a well-known entry to mid-range GPU, able to handle most modern games at modest 1080p settings. Like we said before, this is a game starter build, one that you can cut your teeth on to test if gaming is really for you. It'll perform well and leave you enough space to upgrade later should you want a more comprehensive gaming experience. All of our parts will be housed in the badass looking TUF GT301 with the TUF 750B power supply. The case allows for a lot of options for airflow, a lot of space for upgrades, and the PSU allows a lot of runoff room for either overclocking or upgrades for any of the parts. For the monitor, we have the 27-inch TUF VG279 Q1A. Oh man, I personally have one of these myself, and this monitor is amazing. It handles games like a champ with features like panel overclocking up to 165Hz and support for both eLMB and adaptive sync. Then we've got a whole set of TUF peripherals, the K3 keyboard, M3 mouse, P3 mousepad, and H3 headset. Alright, these parts look like they're ready to game. Are we ready to get this started?
Alright, so before we start, we usually need two things: a screwdriver, or a screwdriver set, and an anti-static wrist strap in order for us to handle our equipment safely. But for now, we don't have one of those, but in order for us to discharge the statics in our body, we need to touch anything that's metal or our power supplies.
Touching
Anything that has
frame
ground.
of the table,
There you go.
which is metal.
So we're not gonna need an anti-static mat because we're gonna use the box of the motherboard in order to build our PC. But aside from that, we're all good to go. Alright guys, so be careful with your parts, guys. This is an anti-static table because it's made from wood. So before we start, last time Sophie did the CPU.
Did the CPU. Alright. Now
So-
she's gonna do the CPU again because this is a different brand of CPU.
Oh yeah, but this one must be easier for her because this one is AMD build. She built her own PC already, and it's an AMD PC. So you might be already familiar with this one. So actually, Sophie has done this before, but you know, maybe she already forgot how to install
Oh,
it.
yeah, this is the one with the
You
pins
still
on the
remember.
other side,
Yeah, the
right?
pins are on the other side.
Yeah.
I find that scarier to have like the pins on the CPU.
Yeah, because the previous
Really?
one has
the previous
a
one
yeah doesn't have the
on
pins.
Yeah, it's an LGA.
It's LGA. And let's see how
Okay.
is she gonna pull this off.
If I remember,
you
there's the
remember.
triangles that match, right?
Yeah,
Little dots. But do I have to pull this up first?
maybe.
Maybe? Yeah?
Maybe.
Yeah, you said yeah, so.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Right? If you're gonna do something wrong, I'm gonna
Just stop
quickly
you.
interfere. Yeah.
Okay.
So don't worry.
You slap your hand.
And slap your hand. That's wrong.
That's wrong. Like a
So-
teacher.
The triangle's here, right?
Alright.
There.
Okay.
And the triangle is there.
Mhm.
So it goes like that,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Okay, but now I'm scared.
Okay. Set it carefully. Because once you bend even one of the pins, it will not work. Okay.
Galing, di ba?
Alright. It's not moving. It's not moving, right?
She knows the wiggle technique.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah?
So is it secure already? You're
Yeah.
confident that it's secure?
Yeah?
Lock it in place.
Yeah? Okay. Is it good?
Oh, there you go.
Oh, there you go.
Very easy. Which one's
Let's go.
Which one's harder? Which one's harder? The previous one or this
The
one?
previous one.
Alright, the previous one. But ito yung part na laging ang dami nagkakamali ng
Yeah.
mga beginners.
Yeah.
Especially if they're using an AMD processor kasi nga may pins.
Yeah.
So most of the breakage na nangyari is yun nga, nababend yung pins, hindi na napuputol. So good thing, props for you. Another one done by Sophie. There you go. So next one is the memory. So last time I installed the memory, now you do the memory.
Okay.
We're like leveling up this
Sophie's
build
game.
for now. So
Okay.
last time you did like CPU only, now you're gonna do you remember my quick tips?
Is it the
Flash the quick tips right now.
The sticker faces inwards, right?
Some motherboards have both tabs you can open, but some only has the upper part.
It's been a while
Okay.
since I've seen like a motherboard with
There you go.
tabs that open on both
Yeah.
sides.
Most of the budget motherboards only has one side.
Yeah.
There you go.
Wow, I'm getting
Nice.
good at this.
So I think we're done with the motherboard. We can set this aside. We're gonna attach the water cooling later because this is an AIO. Unlike the tower cooler which we can already install if we have a tower cooler. This one we should mount this first on our case and do some stuff to it before we actually put it in our motherboard. So I think we're gonna go with our power supply in case again.
Alright, let's go. Okay, back from the cut, we just unboxed the ASUS TUF GT301. This is a compact ATX case, which is kind of in a weird position in between regular ATX and MATX. So it has like a full height expansion slot kind of thing. Can you show the expansion slots? Yeah, so it has like full height expansion slots, but it's not wide enough to accommodate an ATX motherboard. So this is kind of like an MATX big case, something like that.
And it also has the favorite feature of Sophie,
favorite feature ni Sophie.
the dust filters.
The magnetic dust filter. But yeah, it usually comes configured with these fans up at the top, at the front, but we've already pre-configured the fans in here to clear the front because that's where we'll be putting the radiator and the fans of the TUF Gaming LC240 RGB.
Water cooling.
Water cooling, AIO water cooling.
We are now putting the power supply once again inside the case. Can you still remember my quick tip from the previous episode?
Is it to plug all the wires in first?
Yes, but this one I think is it's still a non-modular power supply. So what are we going to do with non-modular power supplies once again?
Cut off the extra cables.
Cut off the extra cable. No.
Pre-route the cables. We're gonna pre-route the cables because it's harder to pre-route if there's all these extra cables that we're not gonna use. So,
Yeah.
okay. So I think that's a minus score for Sophie right there. So again, we're gonna remove the panels first. First, the tempered glass front panel. This one has like the one with you can remove.
Captive screws.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
cannot
I like
remove the
those.
screws, so you'll not lose it. So you just loosen it. This, and there you go. Be careful as possible, as safe as possible, because once you destroy this,
Yeah.
there's no replacements for this. So, good thing to do is put your side panels inside the box again if you're not gonna use it or if you're gonna build into the case. Alright, for this one, it's very messy out of the box. There's so many cables because of the included fans. You also see here the front I/O cables. Alright, so let's fix these cables very quick before we pre-route our cables from our PSUs. So for this one, we're gonna put the power supply face down once again because we have these massive vent holes for our power supply to suck clean air or cool air in, right? Because if you put it upside down,
There's no air because of the shroud.
yes. Right.
Is it alright to do that? Like hold it by the cables?
Hold it by the cables. Yeah, it's fairly sturdy, and it's not gonna break or something.
Yeah, another one, another stabby one if you want.
Nice.
Alright.
So we already mounted the power supply. As you can see here, we got a little bit of problem. Right. So we're gonna do some magic tricks on this because in order for us to close the back panel later, we need to be strategic on where we're gonna, route our cables. Alright, so pinagtyagaan ko ng onti yung wires, so I put a little bit of effort to it, so it's already tucked in nicely inside, and I also pre-routed the front I/O panel connectors that Kev's gonna install or gonna put in later. But it's time for you to pre-route these cables. So where are these cables gonna go?
The big one.
Yes.
So like here,
Alright.
right? Oh no! Did you say oh no?
The front panel connector. It's so hard.
Then this one goes like on top,
Which one? Which hole?
like this one.
Of course, this is the last one. So
Oh, right, you flip right. Yeah.
And for this one, this is for the SATA HDD and for our SSD.
I didn't do that, but this one.
Yeah. It's gonna stay at the back.
Right.
It's not gonna be pre-routed there. So before we install our motherboard, let's install our hard drives and SSDs. So we have a tray here. Have you tried this one before or?
I don't think so.
So you can mount the HDD like this.
Ooh.
There you go.
Wow, that's easy.
So see?
Wow, that's convenient.
So we're gonna put it here. you go. And it will click like that. But for the SSD, which is this one, we're gonna put it in front of our case. So as you can see here, I can flip this aside. We have a mounting plate for the SSD. So once we unscrew this, we got this little plated thing that we're gonna mount our SSD to. It will be like that. But for this one, we need screwdrivers and screws because we're gonna mount it physically to the plate. So it's all mounted. All we have to do, put it back like that and screw it in. Let's see. Right. And now I'm gonna put the power connectors for our storage.
How come you use the one in the middle of the wall?
Because I'm gonna use it for the SSD and it's farther than this one. So I'm using both ends. As you can see, we have multiple options here, but I'm using both ends. So we have, you know, more reach front to back. There you go. All tucked in like that.
Very tidy.
See? Bam!
Ooh.
You guys done?
Are we?
Okay, yeah, we're
Are we
done.
distracting you?
Alright, so we are now ready.
That
Because
was like the flavor of
I
the
did
video.
all of the cable managing. We're all ready for the motherboard to be put inside the case. Or are we? Are we? Sophie, are we?
No,
Why?
because we're gonna put in these things, the fan first.
We're gonna put the water cooling
Water
first in our case. So for this one, we're gonna mount 2 fans, right? There you go. And it's gonna go right in front of the case. Have you installed water cooling before?
Nope.
Alright, so this is gonna be your first time. For the tough gaming case, some cases have different, configurations on how to put your water cooling in it. For this one, let me check. Let's remove the front panel of the case very quick. Now this is the
Or
most
just yank it.
dangerous part, I think, because some of the newbies or the ones who hasn't built any PCs yet doesn't know how to remove this. They keep yanking and they cannot pull it out.
Yeah.
So you just need to put force and guide the upper part of the case. So just think of it as you're yanking, something stuck beneath the sofa or something.
What kind of sofa do you have?
I don't know, maybe the remote or I don't know. Just here, take a look at this. This is the front of the case. So it's quite spacious, and you cannot only mount a 240 but also a 360 in this if you're gonna remove the fan and the HDD tray below.
It's called the 240 because 240, right?
Mhm.
Just 240 because this is a 120 millimeter fan, and you can put 2 of these, and you just like add up the 120, so 240.
It's like the size of the radiator.
Yeah, the size of the radiator. Sometimes they come in 360, which means 3. Like it's like yay
Sometimes
long.
it's called 380 because
380.
it's extra thick.
Yeah. Then sometimes it's gonna be instead of like 120 millimeter fans, it's going to be a little bit larger.
Like a
so
140 millimeter fan.
Yeah. So it comes in 280 flavors and I'm stupid at math. 360,
380.
380, something like that. So yeah. So it's just how many fans you can slap on or can accommodate on the radiator.
Speaking of fans, you can actually mount fans both here and below it. So you can have a total of 4 fans.
Wow.
But for this build, we're gonna put just
Are we gonna do like a push-pull?
Good question. There's also a push and a pull configuration, which some of the PC enthusiasts debates about.
Yeah. So fans work this way. So where the bracket is, that's where the air goes. So this is the intake, and this is the what do you call this? The
Exhaust.
The exhaust of the fan. So push means the fan is positioned in front of the radiator,
Like
so
this?
it's pushing air.
In.
Yeah, it's
Pushing
pushing air in. Then pull means the
It's
fan is
pulling air
behind the radiator, so it's pulling air.
So see
through
the difference here? If we put it like this, in a push configuration, all of the dust will accumulate here.
Oh.
And in order for you to remove the dust, you need to remove the fan and then heat it. But if you do a pull configuration, all of the dust will still be here, but you don't need to remove any fans. You just clean it right off the bat.
Wow.
No need to disassemble your, fan or your radiator. It's easier, and it almost has the same performance as a push configuration.
What about push-pull?
Push-pull, different story. If you have, thicker radiator, that's optimal. But for this, it's very thin.
Yeah.
I think dual 120 is good for this.
Yeah.
But if you have like a 380, a thicker radiator, you'll notice it once you got into more AIOs in the future. So it's actually easy to mount the water cooling pump to our motherboard because it doesn't need to have the additional stuff like this one for the Intel platform, which has a backplate and additional mounting hardware. But for this, we're gonna use the default mounting hardware from AMD, which is the default bracket, default backplate, and we're just gonna add this thing. It's a retention plate for our CPU, or for the mounting of our CPU, which just you're gonna put it like this. I'm gonna demonstrate this first before I put it inside. So I put it like this, and we're just gonna use the hook in order to mount it in our default bracket, AMD bracket. Then we're gonna tighten it with this thumb screw. So in order to do that, we should put our thermal paste first, or we should actually mount the water cooling. So we're gonna mount it like this. I'm gonna set it aside like that. While you're mounting it, Sophie, this is the Deepcool Z3 thermal grease. Okay, it's a thermal paste. Some call it thermal grease, thermal paste, it's the same thing. So for this one, we have one tube. We also have an included thermal paste applicator. So, do you know how many or how much thermal paste are we gonna use for this size of a CPU? Which one's bigger, uncooked rice or cooked rice?
Uncooked rice. Oh no, uncooked rice, of course, cooked rice, right?
So, how much thermal paste do you think are we gonna need for this?
Okay, 7 pieces of uncooked rice, 5 pieces of, 3 pieces of uncooked, 2 pieces of, 1 piece of uncooked.
There you go.
Okay.
1 piece of cooked rice. Oh, no! Oh. Alright, so we're gonna put the pump to our CPU. There you go. So we're gonna mount it like this, facing the logo, right? Of the tough logo, which is RGB. So this is gonna light up once we put it. Or
Is this RGB?
yes, this is RGB, right? So before I mount the CPU, I mean the pump to our CPU, let's connect the cables first.
4-pin CPU fan.
The 4-pin RGB header and the 4-pin fan header. There you go. Everything is mounted. You just need to manage this RGB and fan header cables. And now for the final step, well actually no, we're gonna
The fans.
connect the fans first. Alright, so I already attached the fans to the fan headers. We actually used a extra fan hub.
Yeah, an ID
with-
cooling
can show you the camera.
FH07.
There you go, FH07.
What does this do?
This one is like an extension cord for outlets, but for fans. Like you need extra fans, but you don't have any more fan header in your motherboard. This is the way.
I think the last part of the build that we need to do before we test this out, it's the God card.
The video card. Why are we using the 1050 Ti since we have a Ryzen 5 5600X here? Can you explain to them why are we using this card instead of the brand new ones? They're also 1650 Super, like 1660 series.
Yeah, or even the 30 series.
Yeah, 30 series. If it's not, a budget build, we can use that in this one.
Yeah, for 2 reasons. First is because there's a chip shortage right now, and cards are kind of hard to come by, especially like the more modern cards that are just being produced now. It's hard to get them at retail prices. Also, this is a game starter build. This is like where you kind of figure out if you're really into gaming or just into like retro gaming and stuff. So this is where you can start with like not a really high budget and get your gaming fix. And if you ever decide to go for like AAA gaming like down the line, you can easily upgrade from here. Because if you went for like a 3070 now, you'd have to pay like two
times
times
to the price. Yeah.
2 times the price of it. Then you kind of figure out now, oh, I just want to play Rocket League and Valorant. So that's too much or that's too little of a load for a 3070. So starting with a 1050 Ti, it's a really good start for this kind of watch.
Alright, so for this one, I'm gonna let Sophie install this because this is the most satisfying install.
Ready to go.
Okay. Now for this one, guys, we don't need a PCIe power connector. It can power through the motherboard itself. Doesn't need any external powers to it. So there you go. We're all done. What's the easiest part to install for you when we're first building your first PC?
Maybe the SSD.
SSD?
Yeah.
Like for the M.2 slots?
Yeah. You just kind of
I see.
slide it and push it down. So all good to go?
All good to go. And before we close up the back panel and the front panel, quick tip again, we should test it if it's gonna boot before we close everything up. So if there's something wrong with the build or the components you use, you can easily remove it and not do it all over again. Undo the back plate. Alright, 3, 2, 1. There you go.
Oh,
Yay!
look at all them fancy lights.
Wow.
Look at those lights.
Oh, late needs to start yung RGB nung RAM.
So may RGB rin yung SSD, but we don't have the micro USB. So it's not lighting up.
And all of this is customizable because the motherboard has support for Aura RGB.
Just take note, guys, the included fans in the case is not a 4-pin RGB. It's 3-pin, and the one who's controlling the light is actually the cases. So there's an RGB button here. When we press, it changes colors. Look at that. There you go. So could you tell us more about this monitor?
Alright, so this is the ASUS TUF VG279Q1A. So I've reviewed this for BrenPro TV before. It's a 1080p 27-inch monitor, so it's kind of physically big for its resolution because usually at 27 inches you want to be going for like a 1440p monitor to make the most out of your screen real estate. But 27-inch 1080p gaming is still fine. It's still very acceptable for in my books. A monitor at this size, at this resolution, really allows you to enjoy your games, especially with this like game starter build. So it kind of allows you to drive your games at really high frame rates without really bottlenecking your performance because of the resolution. Because 1080p is really easy to drive now, especially in games like Valorant, Rocket League, CSGO. But if you do want to get like a more competitive experience out of this monitor, because this defaults to 144 Hz refresh rate, you can actually overclock it to 165. So it gives you like a better response from your monitor for those very like sweaty nights of
Sweaty
gameplays of Warzone and stuff. So yeah, I've reviewed this before. I liked it, and yeah, it's a really good choice for this kind of build. It's not really hard to drive, very competitive for its price.
And they can get it at
SM Cyberzone.
very nice.
Yeah. Alright, so this is the build. These are the peripherals that we're going to be using for it, and this is the monitor. You're going to see it in B-roll. But yeah, what can you guys say about this game starter build?
Well, me first, I think this is a not really a hard build to do for beginners, but it will take time, especially the cable management, because we really didn't focus on that.
Yeah.
And good job to Sophie.
Yeah.
She did the memory, thermal paste application. You learned something new today.
Yep.
And the CPU. Very easy.
She even did the wiggle test.
Yeah, the wiggle test.
Wiggle test is something that you really have to do when you're installing an AMD CPU because the pins are kind of fragile.
How about you, Sophie? What do you think about this build? Does this look good?
I don't know, it
Too
looks
gamery
cool.
for you?
I guess it looks a bit too gamery for me because I like very simple, sleek design.
I
But
see.
I can see how this is like, for the people that like the gamery kind of aesthetic. It'll do the job. Yeah. But yeah, it looks really cool on the inside, and I've never handled any of the liquid cooling
First time installing an AIO.
Yeah, that was new. I mean, I didn't do much, but
Alright.
next time I will.
How about you, Kevin?
It's kind of nostalgic to see a 1050 Ti.
Yeah, it is.
But yeah, I can understand why it's here. And for the purposes of this build, I kind of get it. I actually kind of recommend it because the modern cards that are supposed to be slotted into what the GTX 1050 Ti used to populate in the market, they're kind of hard to get, and they don't really have that kind of value in the market right now. So going with a 1050 Ti for a game starter build, being played by someone who's kind of feeling out if they're gonna be, am I gonna be gaming most nights or am I still gonna be watching Netflix or something? It's a good card to start with, and that's kind of like the focus of this build. So yeah, it's pretty good. If you want to build this type of setup, just head on over to an SM mall near you and check Cyberzone. There are a lot of #tech-assured stores to go with a wide variety of products. If you need info on the latest gadgets, you can also visit www.smcyberzone.com or head on over to SM Cyberzone's social media accounts.
When you purchase selected ASUS and ROG products to build your PC, you can get up to 5,000 pesos worth of Steam codes and other premium ROG merchandise. Click on the link in the description or scan the QR code here.
And that's it, guys. Here's our build, our game starter PC build, and tune in next time because we're gonna build a Valorant PC build.
Just for playing
Just for Valorant.
This is gonna be a good episode for a lot of like esports hopefuls because Valorant is really
And I think that PC is gonna be slightly more powerful than this.
Oh, alright.
So we'll see on the next episode.
See you in the next episode. So that's it. I'm Kevin Evangelista.
And Sophie Mapua of BrenPro TV with Alvin Pacheco of Pinoy Enthusiasts. And this is SM Cyberzone's PC Masters 2021 presented by ASUS. Thank you guys so much for watching.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.